Epiphany celebrates God revealing himself in the East or the West. And our Translingua source echoes this Three Kings Day celebrates the revelation of the Son of God as human in Jesus Christ. The essence is manifestation.
Okay. And beyond the theology, Translingua gets into all the traditions. It sounds like it's a really big celebration in lots of places.
Oh, it really is. For many, it marks the official end of Christmas time. Taking down decorations is a common thing, Translingua mentions, though the timing varies. And gift-giving special cakes.
The king cakes. Yeah, Merriam-Webster mentioned that New York Times story, the weird elephant orchestra idea that popped up around Epiphany. Maybe it happened over king cake?
Chuckles. Maybe. Translingua gives more detail, especially on the French galette des rois, with the hidden charm, the fave.
Right, find the charm, you're king or queen for the day.
Exactly, with silly obligations sometimes. It really keeps the party going.
Sounds like fun. And it's not just France, right? Translingua mentioned Finland.
Yep, Finland has the Day of the Holy Three Kings. Star-shaped gingerbread, apparently. And it's a public holiday now.
Nice. And the traditions are really different depending on where you are?
Totally. Translingua mentions Orthodox countries often having water blessings, even icy dips in rivers or lakes to commemorate the baptism, and blessing houses is common too.
Wow. And Ireland has something called Little Christmas, or Women's Christmas.
Yes. According to Translingua, it's traditionally a day for women to rest after all the Christmas work, maybe go out together, get gifts. And they burn the old Christmas holly, which sounds quite symbolic.
That's lovely. Italy has Befana, right? The witch who brings gifts.
That's the one. And Translingua also mentions Lebanon's Maronite Church, where Epiphany is huge, marking Jesus' baptism and the start of his mission, with special prayers, midnight mass. It's just this amazing tapestry of traditions.
All woven around that central idea of revelation. It's incredible. Christianity.com even links it to Isaiah, that passage about light and nations coming to the light.
Right. Isaiah 60, it perfectly captures that feeling of divine light breaking through, welcoming everyone. It really underpins the whole meaning of Epiphany.
Okay, so now let's shift gears slightly. Back to literature, but maybe someone other than Joyce. Frank O'Connor came up in our research. He was Irish too, right? Influenced by Joyce?
Yes, very much so. Frank O'Connor, brilliant short story writer. And he definitely picked up on Joyce's idea of the Epiphany, but he used it in his own way.
How so?
Well, O'Connor often used it in stories with child narrators. These moments of sudden understanding would help them figure something out about themselves or about the confusing adult world.
Ah, okay. So using Epiphany for that moment of childhood realization.
Exactly. One source, a thesis by Ty Hayes, talked about this, how O'Connor combined Joyce's Epiphany idea with something from Chekhov called the false personality, this kind of front that people, especially kids, put up. The Epiphany often breaks through that front.
Interesting. So like in Joyce's Araby, that famous story from Dubliners, the boy has that crushing realization at the end, right, about his own vanity.
Yes, that's a classic Joyce and Epiphany. Very disillusioning. A creature driven and derided by vanity, stark stuff.
Yeah. So how did O'Connor's differ? Were they always so bleak?
Sometimes they were desolate, yeah. But other times, O'Connor's epiphanies could lead to something more like moral growth or a change in how the character relates to others, not always just disillusionment.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, Hayes analyzes the man of the world, the young narrator, Larry. Lots of his stories feature a Larry. He's spying on some neighbors. He thinks they're kind of vulgar, showy.
Get to do that.
Totally. But then he sees them in this private moment of really sincere religious devotion. And boom, epiphany. He realizes how superficial his judgment was, how appearances mean nothing. He feels the sense of eternity watching. It's profound.
Wow, that's different from just feeling foolish. That's a deeper shift.
Exactly. But then Hayes contrasts that with another story, My Oedipus Complex.
Yeah.
Here, Larry's false personality, his jealousy of his own father, is so strong it actually blocks a true epiphany. He completely misreads what's happening with his parents.
So the epiphany doesn't always land.
Right. Or sometimes, as in The Genius, the epiphany is devastating because it shatters the kid's entire self-image. Larry built himself up as this genius, and then reality hits.
Ouch.
Yeah. And Hayes points to the study of history for maybe the most terrifying one. Laurie confronts the idea of infinite time and realizes his own identity is just nothing in the face of eternity. Proper existential dread.
Jeez, heavy stuff for a short story.
O'Connor didn't shy away from it. But Hayes also shows how in other stories like The Man of the House or Masculine Protest, the epiphanies lead Larry back to needing comfort from his mother or having a kind of moral awakening about his own bad behavior.
So a real range of outcomes then.
A huge range. And sometimes, like in The Face of Evil, the epiphany actually happens inside a chapel, which is interesting. It kind of links back to the religious roots, maybe even O'Connor's own experiences he wrote about elsewhere.
So overall, O'Connor used Epiphany to reveal that world of appearances and force his characters, often kids, to face some deeper truth, whether it was comforting or terrifying.
That sums it up really well. It was about piercing through the surface.
And just briefly, psychologists study this too, right? As a sudden shift in understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. They look at it as a cognitive phenomenon, how those sudden insights happen, and their role in things like problem solving and creativity. It's seen as a key part of how innovation happens sometimes.
Okay. So wrapping this all up then, this one word, epiphany. It's got quite the journey.
It really does. From a specific Christian festival celebrating Christ's revelation.
Right, the Magi, the baptism.
To a broader sense of any divine manifestation. And then landing in our everyday language and in literature as that sudden, powerful moment of insight. That aha.
Yeah, that flash of understanding. It's amazing how it kept that core idea of manifestation or revelation, even as it moved into secular use.
It really is. Even when we talk about a personal epiphany, there's still that feeling of something being shown to us, even if it's just by our own minds clicking things into place. It speaks volumes about how we experience understanding.
Well, hopefully exploring all this has been maybe a little illuminating for you listening.
We hope so.
The next time you hear someone use epiphany, or maybe even use it yourself, you'll have this richer sense of its background, the theology, the history, the literary weight, and just its power to describe those moments that suddenly change how we see things.
And maybe, take a second to think about your own epiphanies. We all have them, big or small. How did that sudden understanding shift things for you? How did it change how you saw yourself or someone else or just the world? Reflecting on all these different facets we've talked about might give you a fresh angle on those moments of clarity in your own life.